Welcome to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. What we talking about today? We got to give it up. We have to give it up for none other than one of our favorite groups, Mount Rushmore. They were on our episode in full force discussion. Not actually them. They would be the biggest draw that we've ever had on the pod. But needless to say, we had to talk about Outkast when we were talking about Mount Rushmores of groups. And shout out to Big Boy. Shout out to Andre 3000, aka Three Stacks. They now, like Tribe Called Quest the year prior, are members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Does this mean a lot to some hip hop purists? No. Does it mean a lot to some other fans like myself? It is a statute and a level of respect for our art form and how many planes of music now end up in this Hall of Fame. We don't have a hip hop Hall of Fame. We have a temple of hip hop that KRS-One is created, but we need to ensure that our legends and our heroes, while they're still here, the previous episode that I did was on Big Pun, and Big Pun literally made his breakthrough album in 98 and was dead in 2000. Prodigy is gone. Sean Price is gone. Phife Dawg is gone. Guru is gone. Eazy-E is gone. Amongst Pimp C is gone. Amongst many other artists are gone. So let's celebrate them while they're here. To get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a big deal. This also kind of coincides with the anniversary of literally the introduction to hip hop in the South as it quickly evolved to. Like, there were artists well before Outkast, but when Outkast showed up on the scene, and we'll talk about who they are, it changed the game in so many different capacities. So who's Outkast? I said Andre 3000, aka Three Stacks. Always throw up the three to the dome from my boy Mello, and Big Boy. So these are two artists from Atlanta. They truly brought a different spin to music and to the South at large in the 90s. They on the tips of Midnight Marauders and Low End Theory, they brought their own Southern slang with a combination of funk, jazz, techno, and many other sounds. This really helped create the sound of hip hop we thought we realized that we needed in the 2000s, although they brought it to us well before that in the 90s. So out of the heart of Atlanta, this group came together in 92. And in 94, we got Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik. So this record was under LaFace, which a lot of the albums were in that time under in Atlanta and in the South. This album sounded like nothing we had ever heard. It talked about urban life. It talked about Afro-American culture. The voice of the South is in Atlanta. And I spent some time in Atlanta earlier this year. I absolutely love it there. This is like, how did I not spend more time of the decades that I've been on this planet? How did I not spend it in Atlanta up until a couple months ago? I drove by Atlanta. I never got a feel for it. I spent some time downtown, and Atlanta is absolutely amazing. And what I realized in taking that and making an Atlanta playlist for my trip and really hearing some more Outkast, these guys deserve a lot of credit, a lot of respect. This 64-minute album changed the way that myself and many other people took in music and what we were open to and were experiences. Like these repetitive, these hooks and Southern slang, which we had never really heard in great deal on a record, was Southern playalistic Cadillac funky music. Or Cadillac music. There's no funky in there. This album charted at number 20 on the Billboard 200. This album sold 1 million copies. So it's gone platinum, critical success, revered by both the East Coast and the West Coast. Andre and Big Boy, they met in school. Were able to connect on a level in their teenage years. Big Boy was formed a group called Two Shades Deep. But then he was working in school trying to get his GED. The duo, spent a lot of time to the late with Rico Wave in his recording studio, known as the Dungeon. Hence why the Outkast plus Goody Mob is considered the Dungeon family, along with Organized Noise, which did the production for the album. Outkast recorded demos in the studio. Ray Murray helped Big Boy, really create some amazing songs. He was part, or this is the groundwork of LaFace Records that, gave us TLC, so gave us Arrested Development. So there were a lot of things that were popularized through LaFace Records, and it only sprung further. And, we already had some good things. We have obviously all the stuff that Jermaine Dupri has been able to do over the years. So to see this kind of transcend and come to life, the sound that came for Organized Now is now the sound of the South, and how it has come to be. And I mentioned Rico Wave and Ray Murray, and then Sleepy Brown was a part of it. And he was able to help create many pieces for both Goody Mob and the Outkast over time. You even hear him sing hooks. He would definitely had a hand in TLC's work. Waterfalls, he's a part of that. So it really gave you a down home vibe that people really wanted to have Atlanta feel and sing. These lyrics and how they rap didn't sound like anything else. Like there was almost this unusual but usual rhythm. Like if we think about them being an extension of the native tongues and being from the South. So think of Jungle Brothers and De La and Tribe. They kind of are cohesive with that genre, but with their own slang. And this is, again, in the world of Illmatic and Into the Wu-Tang and stuff that Redman was doing, and EPMD, and then Midnight Marauders. You can see the influence of these albums in some capacity end up here, but it sounded like nothing else that we had ever heard. And I think the first song that I ever heard was Ain't No Thing, is Ain't No Thing But a Chicken Wang. And how this hook stuck with me for so long was absolutely amazing. And then Call of the Wild, Get Up and Get Out, it just really talked about what was happening with the youth and drugs, and just trying to being productive and just stop doing things that are holding you back. And then you get the introduction to CeeLo Green on the album. The lead single was Players Ball, and people really kind of got behind it. And this was in 93 that this came out. So we are on the edge of Wu-Tang and Midnight Marauders, but then you could really feel the sound get shaped as we move forward. When as things move forward into 94, it started to get more airplay. We used to hear, obviously in 94 we were on the verge of getting Illmatic. Biggie is starting to become a thing. This album actually only came out like 1 week after Illmatic, and to a certain extent I think kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, but it was still doing its own thing. Again, a couple weeks later, it was 20th on the Billboard charts. Again, as I mentioned, it had sold by August 715,000 copies, and well on its way to becoming a platinum album. So already gold in the same year, and then ultimately becoming a gold album. They did a re-release for it in September of 98. And then, they did some amazing videos, Get Up and Get Out and Players Ball were some of the videos that they had done. If I look at some of the ratings for this album, I think people were caught a little bit by surprise, but Encyclopedia of Popular Music, 4 out of 5. All Music, 4 out of 5. Source, 4 out of 5. Rolling Stone Album Guide, 4 out of 5. Los Angeles Times, 3 out of 4. So this is all over North America. Entertainment Weekly, A, because again, it was an album we had never heard before, and that sounded differently. So fast forward, the moment that we will always remember for Outkast, in the 1995 Source Awards, we had the East Coast and the West Coast in full swing. And we're thinking Biggie. We're thinking so many other artists. Who's going to be the one? Is it going to be Nas? The winner for Best Newcomer was Outkast. And people didn't cheer. People didn't embrace Outkast. And I don't think it was ever planned that Andre 3000 was going to speak in this way, because there were jeers and even boos when they took the stage to get their award and give their acceptance speech. And in New York City, Andre 3000 went to that stage and said, the South has something to say. And those 6 words changed the South forever. We got Goody Mob. We got Ludacris. We got Future. We got so many artists beyond those times. Hey, this inspired the Carolina Boys. I think of my boy Ninth. I think of Little Brother. I think of J. Cole today. Speaking on behalf of the South with those 6 words changed the magnitude and the impact of the South. And if we never had Big Boy and Andre speak on behalf of the South, and yes, we got AT Aliens the next year. We didn't obviously got Aquemini and Stankonia along with the their final and their double album, which a lot of people like. Wasn't the biggest fan personally, but this album is a staple for the South as a community that talks about a lot of different things, and some things violence, misogynistic vibes, amongst other things. There was a lot to get out of this album, and it wasn't East, and it wasn't West, and it wasn't Midwest even. This was the South. This was the South and Detroit taking, or the South being Atlanta. Detroit had its own vibe, so did Chicago. But the South, and as they call it, the Dirty South, gave them mainstream recognition and a sound and a style. And I think we have to credit that they could really rap. They were just not, this was not just some magical game that they were playing. They were actually really good rappers. And that is what is amazing about Outkast. We have 4 amazing albums in a row. And then we got the double album. But if we talk about, and again, on my 4-hour run, my 4-album run out episode, if you haven't listened to that, I did that in March. It's probably about 15 episodes ago. You really should take this in, because when we talk the top tier of 4-album runs, we're talking Kendrick, we're talking Tribe, we're talking De La, we're talking Outkast as 4 of the 5 or 6 best artists, period, in the game that have ever done an album. This gave us Ludacris, T.I. I already said, we got the Carolina guys from Little Brother to Ninth Wonder to J. Cole. This gave us Jeezy. This gave us so many other artists beyond their time. And all they had to do is stand up and do their thing. Ego Trip recognizes this as one of the 25 greatest albums of the first 8 years of the 90s. I don't know why they did it 90 to 98. They ranked it as third of the best albums. And hey, some people would argue that there's other Outkast pieces that are actually better than this one. I love AT Aliens better than this one. I would also share that Midnight Marauders and The Infamous and Only Built for Cuban Links and 36 Chambers would all be ahead of it. But that is the tier of album we're talking about when we're talking about Southern Playalistic music, Cadillac music. So it is an absolute amazing, and the sound and the sonic stratosphere that is created by Organized Noise that they've made is something amazing. So, hey, standout cuts, Ain't No Thing, Players Ball, which was the lead single. Funky Ride is one I absolutely love. Get Out and Get Something. Crumbling Herb is an absolute banger. Deep, Hootie Hoo. If you don't know who Hootie Hoo is, take a listen to the song. But in 64 minutes, they changed the South forever with this one album. So, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, on top of this album now making it through time and celebrating this anniversary that we got on the 26th of April. This makes it 31 years of Southern Playalistic Cadillac music. Outkast, you didn't know what you were doing in your late teens and early 20s and how you created this sound, but you changed the course of hip-hop for the better, and we thank you. That's it. Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. An amazing episode on Outkast and Southern Playalistic Cadillac music.